Captain Sarah Chen stared at the dying screens in front of her. Red lights blinked everywhere on the bridge of the colony ship. Endurance. The hyperspace jump had gone wrong. Very wrong. Half the ship's systems were dead, and the other half were failing fast. Life support is dropping, called out Engineer Webb from his station. We have maybe 3 days before the air runs out. Please. Sarah closed her eyes for a moment. 50,000 people were counting on her. 50,000 colonists who had left Earth to start a new life on a distant world. Now they were all going to die in empty space, far from home. Any ships on sensors? She asked. Nothing, replied the sensor officer. We're in uncharted space. No one knows we're here. The bridge fell silent, except for the hum of failing systems. Sarah had been a ship captain for 20 years, but she had never faced anything like this. The hyperspace accident had torn through their ship like a knife. They were lucky to be alive at all. 2 days passed. The air was getting thin. People were starting to panic in the lower decks. Sarah had to make announcements every few hours to keep everyone calm. But she was running out of hope herself. Then the sensors lit up. Ships approaching, the officer called out. 3 vessels, unknown design. Sarah felt her heart jump. Are they responding to our distress signal? Yes, Captain. They're beautiful. The ships that appeared on the main screen took Sarah's breath away. They looked like they were made of silver crystal, smooth and perfect. They moved through space like dancers, graceful and silent. This is the Veltar vessel, Crystal Song, came a voice over the radio. The words were spoken in perfect English, though the accent was strange. We have received your distress call. We offer aid. Sarah nearly cried with relief. This is Captain Chen, of the Earth colony ship Endurance. We accept your help. Please. We have 50,000 people aboard. We understand. Prepare for rescue operations. The next few hours were like a miracle. The Veltar ships moved with incredible skill. Their rescue pods docked with the Endurance and began moving people to safety. Sarah got her first look at their rescuers when a Veltar officer came aboard. The being was tall and thin, with skin that looked like pale crystal. Its eyes were large and silver, and when it moved, light seemed to dance across its body. It was the most beautiful creature Sarah had ever seen. I am Subcommander Thel Nar, it said with a bow. We will take you to safety. Thank you, Sarah said, tears in her eyes. We owe you our lives. The Veltar being tilted its head. All debts must be recorded. This is our way. Within 6 hours, every human on the Endurance had been moved to the Veltar ships. Sarah watched from a window as her old ship drifted away, dark and dead. It had been their home for 2 years of travel. Now, it was just space junk. The Veltar took them to a small moon they called Sanctuary 7. It wasn't much to look at. Gray rock and thin air. But the Veltar had built shelters there, basic domes that would keep the humans alive. This will be your new home, Subcommander Thel Nar explained to Sarah and her senior officers. Until your debt is repaid. Debt? Sarah asked. What debt? Thel Nar's silver eyes seemed to glow. The debt of rescue. According to Veltar law, those who are saved must serve those who saved them. This is the way it has always been. An older Veltar approached, wearing robes that sparkled with inner light. I am High Accountant Zelan. I will explain your situation. The High Accountant pulled out a device that projected numbers in the air. The cost of your rescue was 847,000 standard credits. This includes fuel, ship time, personnel costs, and the construction of your shelter. Sarah stared at the numbers. How do we pay that back? Through service. Zelan said simply. Your people will work in our mines. They will share their knowledge. They will serve until the debt is cleared. How long will that take? Asked Dr. Webb. The high accountant's expression didn't change. The debt grows with interest. Standard rate is 12% per cycle. Most species require several generations to clear their obligation. Sarah felt cold. Generations? Do not worry, Thelnar said kindly. We will take good care of you. We always take care of our client species. That night, Sarah called a meeting with her senior staff in one of the basic shelters. The dome was cramped and smelled of recycled air. We're slaves, said Dr. Webb bluntly. They've made us slaves. We're alive, Sarah replied. 2 days ago, we were all going to die. Better to die free than live in chains, muttered Security Chief Rodriguez. Easy to say when you're not looking at 50,000 faces counting on you, Sarah shot back. But inside, she knew Webb was right. The next morning, the work began. The Veltar showed them to the mines, deep in the moon's crust. The tunnels were dark, and the air was full of strange chemicals that made people cough. But they had breathing masks and basic tools. You will mine the crystals, explained their Veltar supervisor. A being called Mordoon. They are used in our technology. Very valuable. The crystals were beautiful, glowing with soft light. But they were hard to extract, and the work was dangerous. People got hurt. People got sick from the toxic air. But they were alive. Weeks turned into months. The humans adapted to their new life faster than anyone expected. They dug deeper tunnels, found better ways to extract the crystals, and even figured out how to make the toxic air less dangerous. The Veltar seemed pleased, but not surprised. You are a practical species, Thelnar told Sarah during one of their regular meetings. This will make your service more efficient. Sarah just nodded. But inside, she was already starting to plan. The Veltar had saved them. Yes, but they had also trapped them. And Sarah Chen had not spent 20 years as a ship captain just to become someone else's property. The debt would be repaid, she promised herself. But maybe not in the way the Veltar expected. 5 years had passed since the rescue. Sanctuary 7 no longer looked like the barren moon the humans had first seen. Deep beneath its surface, they had carved out an entire city from the rock. Dr. Marcus Webb walked through the main tunnel, watching families go about their evening routines. Children played in the corridors while their parents returned from the mines. The air still tasted of chemicals, but it no longer made people sick. The humans had learned to filter it better. Amazing what we can do when we have to, said Maya Chen, falling into step beside him. Captain Chen's daughter had grown up in these tunnels. At 22, she had never known any life except this one. Your mother wants to see you, Webb told her. Emergency meeting. Maya nodded. She had expected this. The Veltar had been acting strange lately, asking more questions about human biology and taking more detailed scans of the workers. They found Captain Chen in what had once been a storage room and was now her office. The walls were covered with hand-drawn maps of the Veltar facilities above ground. Chen looked older now, her hair gray and her face lined with worry. They're planning something, Chen said without greeting. Thelnar has been asking about our population numbers. Specifically, how many young adults we have. Security Chief Rodriguez was already there, along with the other department heads. The guards have been counting us more often too, he reported, and they've been paying special attention to the second generation. Webb felt a chill. The second generation, the humans who had grown up on Sanctuary 7, were different from their parents. Stronger, faster, better adapted to the toxic environment. They could work longer hours in the mines without getting tired. Some could even breathe the outside air for short periods without masks. The Veltar had noticed. There's something else, Chen continued. I've been contacted by someone calling themselves the HFY Rebellion. They claim to represent other client species who want to fight back against the Veltar. It could be a trap, Rodriguez warned. Maybe. But they knew things about Veltar operations that outsiders shouldn't know, and they offered to help us. Maya leaned forward. Chen activated a small device. A hologram appeared, showing technical drawings, weapon designs, communication equipment, plans for other Veltar facilities. She paused. They say other species have tried to rebel before. All failed. But they think humans might be different. Different how? Webb asked. They think we adapt too well. Most species that get rescued by the Veltar just accept it. They do what they're told and hope for the best. But humans keep changing, keep improving. It makes the Veltar nervous. Over the next few weeks, Webb began paying closer attention to their Veltar supervisors. He noticed things he had missed before. The way they sometimes stepped back when humans got too close. How they avoided the deeper tunnels where the air was worst. The fact that they always wore protective suits, even in areas the humans considered safe. The Veltar were afraid of contamination. Not from disease, but from ideas. They had built their empire on keeping client species weak and dependent. But humans weren't staying weak. Maya had started teaching combat training to the younger workers, claiming it was for safety in the mines. Rodriguez was quietly mapping guard positions and shift changes. Even the children were learning things they shouldn't know, like how to hack Veltar computers and how to build improvised weapons from mining tools. The breakthrough came when Webb finally managed to intercept and decode a Veltar communication. The message was short and terrifying. Human adaptation rate exceeds acceptable parameters. Recommend immediate harvest of breeding population before contamination spreads to other client species. Begin selection process for 10,000 specimens. Webb ran to find Captain Chen. He found her in the deepest tunnel, where a group of second-generation humans were testing their ability to work without breathing masks. "Sarah," he said urgently, "we need to talk, now." When he showed her the message, Chen's face went pale. "Harvest," she whispered. "They're going to take our people. 10,000 of them," Webb confirmed. "Young adults. For medical research and genetic material." Maya had been listening. Her face was hard as stone. "When?" Soon." The message talked about beginning selection. Immediately. Chen closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, they were filled with determination. "Contact the HFY Rebellion. Tell them we accept their offer." "Sarah, we're not ready for a fight," Rodriguez protested. "We have mining tools and determination. They have an entire fleet." "Then we'd better get ready fast," Maya said. "Because I'm not going to let them take my friends without a fight." That night, hidden transmissions went out to the HFY Rebellion. The response came back within hours. Weapon plans, tactical advice, and a promise of support when the time came. But the most important message was simpler. You are not alone. Fight well. The next morning, Thelnar arrived with a squad of guards and a list of names. 10,000 humans, carefully selected for youth and health. Maya's name was on the list. So were most of her friends. "These individuals will be relocated for advanced studies," Thelnar announced to the assembled workers. "It is a great honor." Captain Chen stepped forward. "What kind of studies?" "That is not your concern. The selected individuals will report for transport in 3 days." After the Veltar left, the human settlement erupted in angry whispers. Parents clutched their children. Young adults stared at each other with fear and fury. But Maya wasn't afraid. She was angry, and she wasn't the only one. "They think we're sheep," she told the crowd that gathered in the main tunnel that evening. "They think we'll just line up and let them take us. What choice do we have?" Someone called out. Maya smiled. and it wasn't a pleasant smile. We show them what happens when you corner a species from a death world. We show them what humans do when we're done being grateful. The weapons arrived that night, smuggled in by Cathrex agents who had been watching and waiting for this moment. Simple designs that could be built from mining equipment. Explosives made from chemicals they already had access to. Communication devices that the Veltar couldn't track. For 3 days, the humans prepared. They mapped every tunnel, identified every weakness in Veltar security, and planned for every possibility. When the transport ships arrived to collect their harvest, they found something the Veltar had never encountered in centuries of rule. They found humans who were done being rescued. The transport ships landed at dawn. 3 sleek Veltar vessels, their crystal hulls gleaming in the pale light of Sanctuary 7's distant sun. Thelnar emerged with twice as many guards as usual, all wearing combat armor that sparkled like broken glass. Maya Chen crouched in a maintenance tunnel 50 feet below the landing pad, listening to the vibrations through the rock. Around her, 30 other second-generation humans waited in perfect silence. They had all grown up in these tunnels. They knew every sound, every echo. Above ground, Captain Chen walked out to meet the Veltar force. She looked calm, but Maya could see the tension in her mother's shoulders. "Sub-Commander Thelnar," Chen said with a formal bow. "We are ready to comply with the selection." End quote. Thelnar's silver eyes studied her carefully. "You seem accepting of this necessity." "We understand our position," Chen replied. "We owe you our lives. If this is how the debt is to be paid, then we will pay it." Maya almost smiled, despite the danger. Her mother was a good liar. She always had been. The first group of humans emerged from the settlement domes, walking slowly toward the transport ships. They looked defeated, scared. Exactly what the Veltar expected to see. What the Veltar didn't see were the weapons hidden in their clothes, or the way they positioned themselves to block certain sight lines, or the fact that half of them weren't even on the original selection list. "Begin loading," Thelnar ordered his guards. That was the signal Maya had been waiting for. The ground beneath the first transport ship exploded upward. Maya and her team burst from hidden tunnels, moving fast and staying low. The mining charges they had planted weeks ago sent chunks of rock flying in all directions. The Veltar guards spun around in confusion, but the humans were already among them. Maya tackled a guard twice her size, using leverage and speed to bring him down. The crystal being's armor was tough, but she had studied the weak points. A sharp blow to the neck joint sent cracks spreading through the crystalline structure. All around the landing pad, the harmless human workers were pulling weapons from hidden compartments. Improvised guns made from mining tools. Explosives built from chemicals they had been using for years. Nets designed to tangle Veltar wings. But the real shock was how the humans moved. They didn't fight like the other client species the Veltar had faced. They didn't stand their ground and trade shots. Instead, they flowed like water, using the terrain they knew better than anyone else. "Fall back to the tunnels," Captain Chen shouted, but it wasn't a retreat. It was a trap. The humans disappeared underground, drawing the Veltar guards into the maze of passages they had spent 5 years perfecting. What had started as mining tunnels was now a fortress designed by people who understood that sometimes the best defense was making your enemy come to you. Thelnar tried to coordinate his forces, but his communications were being jammed by devices the Cuthrex rebellion had provided. His guards stumbled through unfamiliar passages, while humans struck from hidden positions and melted away again. "This is impossible," he said into his communicator. "They are miners, not soldiers." But as his forces took casualties from traps and ambushes, Thelnar began to understand. These humans weren't fighting like miners. They were fighting like something else entirely. In the deepest tunnels, Dr. Webb was coordinating with Cathrex agents who had infiltrated the moon weeks ago. The rebellion had been planning this moment for months, using Sanctuary 7 as a test case for tactics that could work against the Veltar Empire. Phase 2. Webb spoke into his communicator. Light them up. Throughout the tunnel system, humans activated devices they had been building in secret. Not weapons, but something more dangerous to the Veltar. Sonic disruptors tuned to the exact frequency that destabilized crystalline molecular structures. The effect was immediate. Veltar armor began to crack and fail. Their weapons stopped working properly. Some of the guards actually began to fracture. Their crystal bodies, unable to maintain coherence in the disruptive field. Above ground, Thelnar watched his assault force crumble. Impossible, he repeated. How did they know our resonance frequency? The answer came from behind him. Maya Chen had circled around through maintenance tunnels and emerged near the landing pad. She wasn't alone. 20 other second-generation humans flanked her, all breathing the toxic surface air without masks. Because we've been studying you for 5 years, Maya said simply. Every time you came down into our tunnels, every time you scanned our equipment, every time you thought we weren't paying attention. She smiled, and it was not a friendly expression. We learned. Thelnar raised his weapon, but Maya was already moving. She rolled under his shot and came up inside his guard, jamming a sonic disruptor against his chest armor. The crystal plating shattered like glass. You made one mistake, Maya told him as he collapsed. You thought gratitude meant weakness. The battle was over in less than an hour. Of the 100 Veltar guards who had come to collect their harvest, only a handful escaped back to their ships. The transport vessels themselves were captured intact, along with all their equipment and data. But Maya knew this was just the beginning. As soon as the Veltar fleet realized what had happened, they would come in force. Sanctuary 7 couldn't withstand a full assault. Captain Chen found her daughter standing over Thelnar's unconscious form. How long do we have? Not long, Maya replied. But long enough. Long enough for what? Maya looked up at the alien ships they had captured, their crystal hulls gleaming in the light. She thought about 5 years of slavery. 5 years of being told they should be grateful. 5 years of watching her people work themselves to death, to pay a debt that would never end. Long enough to deliver a message, she said. The debt is paid. Time to collect interest. Within hours, modified human forces were loading the captured Veltar ships with everything they had learned about their captors' technology. The Cathrex rebellion provided coordinates for Veltar facilities throughout the sector. As the ships prepared to launch, Captain Chen took one last look at Sanctuary 7. It had been their prison for 5 years. Now, it was going to be their launching pad. Where are we going? She asked Maya, who was studying star charts on a captured Veltar console. Everywhere, Maya replied. The Veltar have client species on 100 worlds. Time they learned what humans do when someone we care about gets threatened. The ships lifted off into the darkness of space, carrying a cargo more dangerous than any weapon. Humans who had learned how to fight back. Behind them, Sanctuary 7 burned with sabotaged equipment and abandoned mines. The Veltar would find nothing useful when they returned. But they would find a message, carved deep into the rock where it could not be erased. The debt was settled in fire. The Deathworlders are free. The captured Veltar ships moved through space like ghosts. Dr. Webb had figured out how to mask their signatures, making them invisible to most sensors. 3 vessels carrying 400 humans toward the heart of the Veltar Empire. Maya Chen stood on the bridge of the lead ship, studying the tactical display. Beside her, Cathrex agent Kixtal clicked his mandibles nervously. His people had been planning rebellion for decades, but they had never seen humans fight before. Your people are intense, Kixtal observed, watching Maya's team modify Veltar weapons at 3 times the normal speed. We're motivated, Maya replied simply. Your intelligence reports say there are 12 Veltar harvest facilities in this sector? Yes. Each holds between 10 and 50,000 client species. But Maya, we cannot free them all. Even with surprise on our side, We lack the firepower to fight the entire Veltar fleet. Maya smiled. It was becoming her signature expression, cold and sharp as a blade. We're not trying to fight their fleet. We're trying to break it. The first target was Harvest Station Gamma 7, orbiting a gas giant in the Veltar home system. Intelligence said it held 30,000 beings from 6 different species, all working to pay debts that would never be cleared. The station was beautiful, like everything the Veltar built. Crystal spires stretched between docking bays, and the whole structure pulsed with soft light. It looked peaceful, serene. Maya hated it. Remember, she told her assault teams, we're not here to destroy the station. We're here to free the workers and send a message. The attack began at the station's power core. Human infiltrators, moving through maintenance shafts too small for Veltar bodies, planted Dr. Webb's special surprise, viral nanites programmed to attack crystalline technology. The effect was devastating. Veltar computers began to fail throughout the station. Security systems crashed. Communication arrays went dark. Within minutes, the beautiful crystal facility was falling apart from the inside. But the humans weren't finished. Maya led the main assault force straight to the worker barracks, where thousands of enslaved beings huddled in fear as alarms screamed throughout the station. We're here to free you, Maya announced in the common trade language. Gather your people. We're leaving. The response was not what she expected. A tall being, with blue skin and 4 arms, stepped forward. A Hathran, if Maya remembered the briefings correctly. Who are you to offer freedom? The alien demanded. The Veltar will punish us for this rebellion. Better to serve and live than resist and die. Maya felt a flash of anger. These people had been slaves so long they couldn't imagine anything else. The Veltar are not gods, she said firmly. They bleed. They break. And today, they lose. To prove her point, she activated her communicator. Throughout the station, Veltar guards were being systematically hunted down by human teams who had turned the facility's own defenses against them. The crystal being's armor was no match for weapons designed specifically to shatter their molecular structure. How? Whispered another worker, this one with gray skin and large eyes. How did you learn to fight them? We studied them, Maya replied. For 5 years, we watched and learned and planned, and we remembered that no species is invincible. The evacuation took 3 hours. 30,000 freed slaves, loaded onto captured Veltar transport ships. As they departed, Maya's team activated the final phase of their plan. Dr. Webb's viral nanites didn't just attack computers. They were designed to spread through the crystalline network that connected all Veltar facilities. As Harvest Station Gamma 7 died, it sent the virus racing through hyperspace communication links to every other facility in the system. Within hours, 12 harvest stations were crippled simultaneously. Hundreds of thousands of client species found their prison doors opening as their guards' equipment failed around them. But Maya knew the real fight was just beginning. High Admiral Zhe Quan of the Veltar Imperial Fleet received the reports while reviewing tax receipts from client worlds. The first message seemed impossible. A single harvest station going offline. Equipment failure, perhaps. The second message made him concerned. 2 stations lost contact within the same hour. By the time the 12th report arrived, Zhe Quan was standing in his command center aboard the flagship Crystal Throne, watching his subordinates scramble to understand what was happening. Impossible, breathed his tactical officer. 12 facilities cannot fail simultaneously without outside interference. Then we are under attack, Zhe Quan said grimly. But by whom? No client species has the technology for this kind of assault. The answer came in the form of a transmission broadcast across all frequencies. The image showed a young human female standing on what appeared to be a Veltar bridge. Behind her, beings from a dozen different species worked at control stations. People of the galaxy, Maya Chen said clearly. My name is Maya Chen. 5 years ago, the Veltar rescued my people from certain death. We were grateful. We served faithfully. We paid our debt with 5 years of our lives. Zaquan leaned forward, studying the image. Humans? But they are miners, not warriors. Today, Maya continued, we learned the true cost of Veltar mercy. They planned to harvest my people for medical experiments, to take 10,000 of us to satisfy their curiosity about Deathworld adaptation. The transmission showed images of the destroyed harvest stations, of freed slaves, of Veltar technology turned against its makers. The debt was paid in full, Maya said, her voice carrying across the galaxy. With interest. Zaquan felt something he had not experienced in centuries of rule. Fear. Assemble the fleet, he ordered. All available ships. We crush this rebellion before it spreads. But even as he gave the orders, reports were coming in from across Veltar space. Client species were rising up on dozens of worlds. The Kothrex rebellion had gone active, using the human assault as cover for operations they had been planning for years. More disturbing were the technical reports. The viral nanites weren't just attacking Veltar equipment. They were learning, adapting, spreading through systems in ways that shouldn't be possible. How are they doing this? Demanded Zaquan. His science officer, a younger Veltar named Thelmos, studied the data with growing unease. Admiral, these nanites. They are using evolutionary algorithms. They adapt to each new system they encounter. It is not Veltar technology. Then whose? Thelmos looked up. His crystal features reflecting fear. Human, sir. But modified with principles we do not understand. They are making our own technology evolve against us. Zaquan stared at the tactical display, showing red marks spreading across their empire like a plague. For 800 years, the Veltar had ruled through technological superiority and careful control of client species. Now a species of miners had turned their greatest strength into their greatest weakness. Signal all fleet commanders, Zaquan ordered. Priority Alpha. The humans are to be destroyed completely. No prisoners, no mercy. But as his orders went out, more reports came in. Human forces were striking at targets throughout the sector, always vanishing before reinforcements could arrive. They fought like no species the Veltar had ever encountered. Fluid, adaptive, ruthless. Maya Chen had been right about one thing. The debt was being paid with interest. And the Veltar were about to learn that some debts could not be collected from a species that refused to stay conquered. The final battle came at Velsecundus, the crystal heart of the Veltar Empire. High Admiral Zaquan had gathered his entire fleet there, 300 warships arranged in perfect formation around the fortress world that had never known defeat. Maya Chen stood on the bridge of her captured flagship, watching the enemy fleet through the viewport. Beside her, Captain Sarah Chen looked older but more determined than ever. Behind them, the largest rebellion fleet in galactic history prepared for the assault that would decide everything. Intelligence reports are confirmed, Doctor. Webb announced from his station. The Veltar have pulled ships from 40 systems to defend Velsecundus. The rest of their empire is practically undefended. Good, Maya said. That means when we break them here, we break them everywhere. Kathrex Commander Kixtal clicked his mandibles nervously. Maya, they still outnumber us 3-1. And their ships are built for war, not mining operations. Maya smiled, that cold smile that had become famous across the galaxy. Numbers don't matter when your enemy can't adapt. The battle began with the Veltar doing exactly what Maya expected, a coordinated assault using centuries-old tactics that had never failed them. Beautiful crystal warships moved in perfect formations, their weapons creating patterns of light across space. It was magnificent. It was precise. It was exactly what the humans had been planning for. As the first wave of Veltar ships closed distance, Maya gave the order that changed galactic warfare forever. Release the swarm. From the human fleet came thousands of small objects, mining drones reprogrammed with Dr. Webb's viral nanites. They moved erratically, unpredictably, like insects rather than proper military craft. The Veltar weapons tracked them easily, destroying hundreds. But the swarm kept coming, and the nanites inside each drone were programmed for one purpose: to attach to Veltar ships and begin converting their crystalline hulls. High Admiral Zaquan watched in growing horror as his beautiful fleet began to fall apart from within. Ships that had served for centuries suddenly turned against each other as their computers were overridden by adaptive viral code. "How is this possible?" he demanded. His science officer, Thelmos, had been studying the human tactics throughout the rebellion. "Admiral, I believe I understand. The humans did not learn to build better weapons. They learned to make weapons that learn. The Veltar tried to adapt their tactics, but adaptation was exactly what the humans had been counting on. Every change the Crystal Fleet made was observed, analyzed, and countered by weapon systems that evolved faster than their creators could think." Maya watched the elegant Veltar formations dissolve into chaos and felt no satisfaction. Only the cold certainty that this had been inevitable from the moment her people were rescued. "Second wave," she ordered. "Target the fortress directly." The assault on Velsecundus itself was unlike anything in recorded history. Human forces didn't attack the fortress walls. They attacked the very concept of walls. Viral nanites began converting the planet's crystal defenses into weapons that turned inward, making the fortress destroy itself. But the real shock came when the third element of humanity's plan revealed itself. Captain Chen had not been idle during the 5 years of slavery. She had sent messages to Earth, and Earth had been listening. Now, as the battle reached its climax, hyperspace portals opened around Velsecundus. Through them came ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Not elegant crystal vessels or sleek metal craft, but ugly, functional warships built by a species that had learned warfare the hard way. Earth's first interstellar fleet, designed specifically to fight crystalline enemies. "Impossible," whispered Admiral Zaquan. "We destroyed their communications. They could not have contacted their homeworld." Maya's voice came across all frequencies, calm and clear. "You forgot something, Admiral. Humans are very good at long-term planning." The Earth fleet didn't bother with elegant tactics. They simply surrounded the remaining Veltar ships and pounded them with weapons that had been 5 years in development. Kinetic projectiles that shattered crystal hulls, sonic disruptors that turned armor into dust, viral weapons that made enemy ships turn against themselves. Within hours, the greatest fleet in Veltar history was scattered wreckage floating around their former fortress world. Admiral Zaquan found himself a prisoner aboard Maya's flagship, along with the few surviving Veltar officers. He looked at the young human who had destroyed his empire and tried to understand how it had happened. "You were miners," he said finally. "We saved you. We gave you purpose." Maya studied him with those cold human eyes. "You gave us slavery. You called it gratitude. But it was slavery. We have ruled this galaxy for 8 centuries. Zaquan protested. "We brought order, peace. You brought control," Captain Chen said, speaking for the first time. "Control backed by the threat of violence. That's not peace. That's just fear, wearing a pretty face." Maya activated a communications panel, broadcasting to the entire galaxy. "People of the Veltar Empire," she announced. "Your rulers are defeated. Their fleets are destroyed. Their fortress worlds have fallen." She paused, looking directly at the camera. "You are free. All debts are cancelled. All contracts are void. The age of Veltar rule is over." The response was immediate. Across hundreds of worlds, client species that had lived in bondage for generations began to celebrate. Some wept. Some cheered. Some simply stood in stunned silence, unable to believe that freedom was possible. But Maya wasn't finished. There will be no new empire to replace the old one, she continued. No new masters demanding gratitude for the privilege of serving them. The galaxy belongs to all of us now. 6 months later, Maya Chen stood in the ruins of the Veltar Imperial Palace on Velsecundus. The beautiful crystal spires had been converted into a refugee center where former slaves from across the galaxy learned to live as free beings. Dr. Webb approached with a final report. The last of the harvest stations has been converted to a research facility. The Kthrex want to study Veltar technology to make sure something like this never happens again. And the Veltar themselves? Most of them are adapting. Learning to live without slaves, to do their work for them. It's educational for them. Maya nodded. Justice didn't always look like punishment. Sometimes, it looked like forcing people to learn better ways to live. Captain Chen joined them on the balcony overlooking the refugee center. They want us to come home, Maya replied. All of us. Full pardons for any unauthorized military actions we might have taken. Sarah Chen laughed. The first real laugh Maya had heard from her mother in years. Unauthorized? We just freed half the galaxy. Earth is proud of what we accomplished, Maya said. But they also want to make sure we don't decide to start our own empire. Smart of them, Webb observed. We did just prove that humans are very good at conquering things when we put our minds to it. Maya looked out at the thousands of beings below, former slaves from dozens of species, all learning to build new lives in freedom. Some would succeed, some would fail. But they would do it as free beings, not as property. We're not conquerors, she said finally. We're just humans. And when someone tries to enslave us, she smiled, that cold smile one last time, we make sure they regret it. The debt had been paid in full. With interest. The galaxy would remember the lesson for a very long time. Behind them, carved into the wall of the former Imperial Palace, new words had replaced the old Veltar inscriptions. Here stood an empire built on the chains of others. It fell when those chains were broken by beings who refused to stay grateful for their slavery. May all who read this remember. Freedom is not a gift. It is a right, and some rights are worth fighting for. The Deathworlders had taught the galaxy a new way to think about debt, gratitude, and the price of freedom. It was a lesson the universe would not soon forget.